In today's video, we are going to explore best Viktor Frankl's quotes about love, freedom, happiness, and success. Let's get started. A thought transfixed me. For the first time in my life I saw the truth as it is set into song by so many poets, proclaimed as the final wisdom by so many thinkers. The truth, that love is the ultimate and the highest goal to which man can aspire. Then I grasped the meaning of the greatest secret that human poetry and human thought and belief have to impart. The salvation of man is through love and in love. I understood how a man who has nothing left in this world still may know bliss, be it only for a brief moment, in the contemplation of his beloved. Love goes very far beyond the physical person of the beloved. It finds its deepest meaning in its spiritual being, his inner self. Whether or not he is actually present, whether or not he is still alive at all, ceases somehow to be of importance. Love goes very far beyond the physical person of the beloved. It finds its deepest meaning in his spiritual being, his inner self. Love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality. No one can become fully aware of the very essence of another human being unless he loves him. By his love he is enabled to see the essential traits and features. Love is the ultimate and the highest goal to which man can aspire. But my mind clung to my wife's image, imagining it with an uncanny acuteness. I heard her answering me, saw her smile, her frank and encouraging look. Real or not, her look then was more luminous than the sun which was beginning to rise. No one can become fully aware of the very essence of another human being unless he loves him. Set me like a seal upon thy heart, love is as strong as death. The more one forgets himself, by giving himself to a cause to serve or another person to love, the more human he is and the more he actualizes himself. What is called self-actualization is not an attainable aim at all, for the simple reason that the more one would strive for it, the more he would miss it. In other words, self-actualization is possible only as a side effect of self-transcendence. The more one forgives himself, by giving himself to a cause to serve or another person to love, the more human he is and the more he actualizes himself. We give life meaning not only through our actions, but also through loving and, finally, through suffering. Because how human beings deal with the limitation of their possibilities regarding how it affects their actions and their ability to love, how they behave under these restrictions, the way in which they accept their suffering under such restrictions, in all of this they still remain capable of fulfilling human values. Love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality. The pleasure principle is an artificial creation of psychology. Pleasure is not the goal of our aspirations, but the consequence of attaining them. Pleasure is, and must remain, a side effect or byproduct, and is destroyed and spoiled to the degree to which it is made a goal in itself. Edith Weisskopf-Joelson, before her death professor of psychology at the University of Georgia, contended, in her article on logotherapy, that our current mental hygiene philosophy stresses the idea that people ought to be happy, that unhappiness is a symptom of maladjustment. Such a value system might be responsible for the fact that the burden of unavoidable unhappiness is increased by unhappiness about being unhappy. To the European, it is a characteristic of the American culture that, again and again, one is commanded and ordered to be happy. But happiness cannot be pursued, it must ensue. One must have a reason to be happy. Once the reason is found, however, one becomes happy automatically. Happiness cannot be attained by wanting to be happy, it must come as the unintended consequence of working for a goal greater than oneself. It is the pursuit of happiness that thwarts happiness. No one can take from us the ability to choose our attitudes toward the circumstances in which we find ourselves. This is the last of human freedoms. Our greatest freedom is the freedom to choose our attitude. The experiences of camp life show that man does have a choice of action. There were enough examples, often of a heroic nature, which proved that apathy could be overcome, irritability suppressed. Man can preserve a vestige of spiritual freedom, of independence of mind, even in such terrible conditions of psychic and physical stress. The last of human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude, especially an attitude of gratitude in a given set of circumstances, especially in difficult circumstances. To be sure, a human being is a finite thing, and his freedom is restricted. It is not freedom from conditions, but it is freedom to take a stand toward the conditions. You can take away my wife, you can take away my children, you can strip me of my clothes and my freedom, but there is one thing no person can ever take away from me, and that is my freedom to choose how I will react to what happens to me. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Every human being has the freedom to change at any instant. For in every case man retains the freedom and the possibility of deciding for or against the influence of his surroundings. Forces beyond your control can take away everything you possess except one thing: your freedom to choose how you will respond to the situation. You cannot control what happens to you in life, but you can always control what you will feel and do about what happens to you. Freedom is in danger of degenerating into mere arbitrariness unless it is lived in terms of responsibleness. That is why I recommend that the Statue of Liberty on the East Coast be supplemented by a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast. Freedom is only part of the story and half of the truth. Freedom is but the negative aspect of the whole phenomenon, whose positive aspect is responsibleness. In fact, freedom is in danger of degenerating into mere arbitrariness unless it is lived in terms of responsibleness. I became acquainted with those martyrs whose behavior in camp, whose suffering and death, bore witness to the fact that the last inner freedom cannot be lost. It is not freedom from conditions, but it is freedom to take a stand toward the conditions. Man does not simply exist, but always decides what his existence will be, what he will become the next moment. By the same token, every human being has the freedom to change at any instant. There is also purpose in life which is almost barren of both creation and enjoyment and which admits of but one possibility of high moral behavior, namely, in man's attitude to his existence, an existence restricted by external forces. A positive attitude enables a person to endure suffering and disappointment as well as enhance enjoyment and satisfaction. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was duty. I worked, and behold, duty was joy. Don't aim at success. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you are going to miss it. For success, like happiness, cannot be pursued, it must ensue, and it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's dedication to a cause greater than oneself or as the byproduct of one's surrender to a person other than oneself. Happiness must happen, and the same holds for success. You have to let it happen by not caring about it. I have known successful businessmen who, upon retirement, lost all zest for life. Their work had given their lives meaning. Often it was the only thing that had given their lives meaning and, without it, they spent day after day sitting at home, depressed, with nothing to do. I want you to listen to what your conscience commands you to do and go on to carry it out to the best of your knowledge. Then you will live to see that in the long run, I say. Success will follow you precisely because you had forgotten to think of it. The pessimist resembles a man who observes with fear and sadness that his wall calendar, from which he daily tears a sheet, grows thinner with each passing day. On the other hand, the person who attacks the problems of life actively is like a man who removes each successive leaf from his calendar and files it neatly and carefully away with its predecessors, after first having jotted down a few diary notes on the back. It is always important to have something yet to do in life. It is we ourselves who must answer the questions that life asks of us, and to those questions we can respond only by being responsible for our existence. Please let us know your favorite quotes from these best Viktor Frankl's quotes about love, freedom, happiness, and success in the comments section. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.